Good afternoon, everyone. I, on behalf of Beyond Law CLC, welcome you all to yet another webinar wherein we are trying to disseminate the knowledge through eminent speakers. Amongst us today we have Mr. Parimal Shroff, who is a known name for the dealing of matters within the constitutional, corporate, civil and property laws. He has a large practice in conveyancing infrastructure law and substantive experience in project financing, securitization, venture financing, land acquisition and requisitions, and other related matters. He has detailed studies on environmental law. Those who stayed connected with us yesterday know that we had a webinar on environmental laws, the evolution. He has been associated with lot of state projects of infrastructure. And when we speak of that, his immense knowledge on project financing, and like he's also doing the inputs of draft of Maharashtra Infrastructure Development and Support Act, it shows that he has an immense knowledge in the matter of drafting, because as we did one of the webinars on art of communication, same is the way of drafting. 1 comma, 1 full stop, 1 colon can in fact, as we all know, being a students of law or lawyers as such, that the entire gamut with the comma, etc., can change the entire drafting. So much so, even while we argue in the court, while making the submissions, the entire word emphasis also changes. Therefore, to understand the nuances of drafting, we thought we should call an expert who is a known name, not only in Maharashtra, but pan-India in this regard. So welcome, Mr. Parimal Shroff. We are delighted that you had accepted our invite, and from your immense knowledge, not only people in your state would be attaining more knowledge, and so much so that since we have the audience pan India, not only on the platform, but also we are live on the Facebook, where people would learn the nuances. As I said, the drafting itself is an art which is learned by skill, and skill can also be learned from a master of drafting. So thank you, sir, for joining us. Just unmute yourself, sir. Yes.
Good evening, Vikas. Thank you for the kind words that you spoke about me. And thank you very much. And I thank Beyond Law to invite me to share my thoughts on the nuances of drafting documents. And it's a great pleasure for me to be with you this evening. And I think more friends are joining. And I'll begin my presentation because we have limited time on hand and we want to really proceed further on the subject. Now, having said that,
so you would like to do screen sharing, or it's fine without that?
I beg your pardon?
So you don't want any PPTs? You will do the PowerPoint programs or a simple screen?
We are not going to do the PowerPoint presentation.
Right, sir. So we will be blocking that screen sharing part. Yes, sir.
I'm not doing that.
Right,
so now, having said that, let me share with you, first of all, that clarify that my picture, which has been circulated by Beyond Law, may not match with my appearance this evening, but that is all blame it on COVID. And this is a lockdown version of myself, which I'm presenting to you. So please excuse me for that. Having said that, let's begin. And it's a pleasure to know that the my viewers this evening are all lawyers, and therefore I'm talking to an audience which is well versed, who knows and who has encountered the problems as well as the journey of drafting, and has some interaction or a brush with drafting prior to my speaking to them this evening. It is always better that whatever the organizers may say about me, but I must also take you into confidence and speak about what is my qualification to talk to you about drafting. What is so special that you must hear me and take my experiences for the purpose of understanding what is drafting and how do you really consider me to be a person who is entitled to address to you on this subject. To explain you about my background is necessary because my purpose this evening is to share with you and many of you who may have some handicaps which I went through, or the handicaps which others may feel at present, and they don't know whether they are qualified into drafting or they require some very special skill, be it knowledge of English, be it going abroad and studying in Oxford or Stanford, or being trained by some special institutions. These are the kind of thoughts, and I would say that shortcomings we all feel at some point of time or the other by looking at some accomplished speakers or accomplished lawyers. We feel that they must have been trained in a different way, and I'll never reach there because I do not have the benefit of having gone through that kind of journey. But I want to share with you so you can be with me by the time I open up and rather demystify the subject as well as demystify the various myths which are around somebody who speaks well and who has an Oxon English, and he is able to present himself in a more effective manner, and we feel that I am from vernacular medium. What happens to me? How will I reach and how will I get out of my handicaps of pronunciation, of my drafting, of my conceiving the document, and my learning law? These are the questions which bother us and which probably trouble us at some point of time or the other, depending upon whatever background is. So let me share with you what is my background and where I'm coming from. So I can say proudly that I can't say whenever I hear, because due to thanks to lockdown, I've been hearing a lot of YouTube anecdotes, and I've been listening to BBC, and I've been listening to various Radio Marzi giving program about great successful people, singers, writers, screenplay writers, and lyricists. And all of them, they say, almost without any exception, that I had a great background. I had my parents who were very learned. I had my mother writing stories. I had my father presenting literature in Urdu, and my father was a great speaker in English, and he was on All India Radio. Now, when you hear this, you said that there was nothing of the sort with me because I am different. My parents were just ordinary middle-class people trying their hard to make two ends meet and to raise the children. I belong to a family of a Gujarati background in which we had 4 brothers, and I was the youngest, and my parents were hardworking people who were trying to raise us and to give us a good learning and good kind of, I would say, upbringing. Of course, they gave us the values, but now comes the question, could they send us to those first-class private schools in which that there was supposed to be IB background, or there was supposed to be some sort of a convent-trained background into which that we were trained? No, I had a very simple background in which that my parents raised me, and my greatest difficulty was that I studied in vernacular medium. Many of you who are here today will appreciate what it means to be in a vernacular medium and get into a world where the spoken word is English and communication is English and nothing else. Though we all talk about language of courts to be English, and we talk about even pleadings can be in a vernacular medium or local language, but ultimately it comes to when you come to the High Court level, when you come to the Supreme Court level, there is nothing like local language, and ultimately you have to come down with the English language, and there is no other means of communication except in English. So I had the same difficulty. But gradually, when I came out of the school and when I went to the college, I went to St. Xavier's College. And St. Xavier's College was, I would say, that a marvelous alma mater that I attended. It contributed to making me, and it gave me a great shape of my destiny and helped me to meet right people and to learn the language and to learn the subjects that I was undertaking. I was doing my Bachelor of Arts with Political Science and Economics. And I have shared earlier also on the public platform that when I was studying the political science as my principal subject, and I wrote my, I would say, my papers, and we had a very tough professor called Professor De Cruz, who was also the father principal of the St. Xavier's College, and he was the examiner. He examined my papers and he brought that to the class, and in front of the whole class, he said that there is somebody here who is getting the highest mark, but his English is pathetic. And he rather turned pages of my papers, my answer books, to the class, and it was full of red because he had corrected all over my English. But he said that his thought is perfect and his ideas are great, and I declare him to be the highest marks winner in the school. Not only that, thereafter I went to the Bombay University, and in that also I became a gold medalist, and that's another story. But that gave me a great confidence. So the first lesson, while we are talking about drafting, do not get bogged down by the fact that you come from a vernacular medium, because that if at all something happens due to that, it helps you. Because not only it was one of the famous sayings of Mahatma Gandhi that mother tongue is like a mother's milk, and I realized that, and I have appreciated that all my life, that in your mother tongue, what you absorb, what you think, what you conceive is a far more effective, and that helps you, and you don't have to remain, thinking in your mother tongue and speaking in the English language in your early years, and that particular gap is never bridged, and you have a problem. By no means I am saying those who study in English medium or speak English at home are anyway inferior, but I would like to say those who have got a vernacular medium from where they come, they speak at home in that, their parents speak that, and there is a difficulty for their relatives to speak or communicate in English. It does not mean that it is some sort of a shortcoming which you will never be able to come up. The question is your mental makeup, how you are going to look at others and how you are going to look at how others look at you. That's very important, because unless you have a self-respect and unless you have a self-esteem by which that what you do you are proud of, the others are not going to accept that position. That I realize. So soon after this, and I was always wanting to be a lawyer, and as I will also share with you a small experience that we in St. Xavier's College had the Independence Day celebration, which was attended by none other than Mr. Palkiwala, who came, and on that day I delivered a small talk at the request of the college union, and I spoke in Hindi. Now, I would say with great attention, Palkiwala heard me. And after the function was over, he said, "You speak very well in Hindi." I said, that's the language I'm good at. He said, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "No, but I don't speak that well in English." He said, "Nothing doing. If you can speak in Hindi, you can speak in English." Then he said, "What do you want to be? What have you chosen to your area of expertise that you want to acquire?" I said, "I want to be a lawyer." He said, "Oh, first class. That's a great choice. You must become a lawyer." And I thought that it was a blessing. And I felt very proud that afternoon. And I felt that now it's a question of time that I'm going to become a great lawyer, not realizing that the distance between St. Xavier's College and the High Court was a great distance, which can take sometime years, sometime decades, and sometime whole of lifetime. But you can't really reach there because the success is different from what your endeavors are. So that was the manner in which that I started my life. And the vernacular medium never stopped me from thinking about law. Now I'm in my 45th year of practice, and I have modest practice in the field as Chatrat has given my introduction and given some sort of my little brief sketch about what I do. Drafting is my forte, and I consider that the profession accepted me, and more than profession, that the clients accepted me, the people accepted me in the field of property law and in the field of commercial law with my drafting, because they put a lot of faith in my drafting. Now, how do you acquire this drafting skill? Where do you learn it from? Let me share with you. I don't believe that in the classroom you can teach drafting. What they teach you in the law school, including the modern law schools in which there are a lot of experts who come and deliver you lectures, and they give you some sort of presentation, and they say that this is an incubator for teaching and drafting. There also the question arises is that how to really draft is not possible to be learned in 1 or 2 or 3 sessions or over a period of time. We all have classes in all law schools and alma maters which take you through drafting, and pleading is a subject in which they try to teach you. You buy Monga's book, you buy Prideaux, you buy Butterworth, and you think that these are the documents which I'm looking through. It is my personal feeling, and which I'm going to share with you now one by one, which you should really take a little serious note of. If you want to be, first of all, a lawyer, and in that also to be a draftsman, and a good draftsman at that, then you require to know not only law, not only language, not only the subject which you are practicing, but you must know everything around you under the sun. As there is a definition of Chinese doctor, which many of you must have come across. They say Chinese doctors are the barefoot doctors. They are not only doctors, they can talk about stars in the night in the sky. They can talk about healing you. They can talk about sculpture. They can talk about the animal world, the biology. They can talk about history. So law, similarly, like a Chinese doctor, it does not require you to know only law. It requires you to know everything under the sun, and it also requires everything that you have. Unless you are willing to give your 100%, the law is a jealous mistress. It will not permit you to excel in any part or any dimension of the law, which you should be very careful about. Now the question comes is that while you are doing this acquiring the skill for the purpose of getting knowledge, we will go into the nitty-gritty of drafting legal documents. But first of all, the fact remains that what you require is a confidence. And that confidence comes out of the special skill which you have to develop within yourself. I'm today reminded of the 9th Bharat Ratna award winner or awardee, Dr. Bidhan Chandra Roy, who was the 2nd Chief Minister of West Bengal. Dr. Bidhan Chandra Roy first did his BA with mathematics. Thereafter, he was made to choose that another subject, and he said, now I will do medicine. So he did medicine in the Calcutta College, and from there he proceeded to London. This is worth listening. So when he went to London, he wanted to do post-graduation. So that post-graduation, as you all know, you have to do through the medical college where it is teaching college. The 12th century college that was supposed to be Bartholomew Hospital, which is also known as Bart's, the college. That Bart's college, he applied for the purpose of getting a course. The dean of that college rejected him, not once, not twice, but 30 applications of Dr. B.C. Roy were rejected by Bart's college, saying that we do not want you to be here because we don't think you will be able to come up to the mark. After 30 applications, Dr. B.C. Roy was allowed to get admitted by the same dean, and he said, now show me your merits. He studied there. 2 years and 4 months he acquired MD. Not only that, he also acquired FRCS and MRCP, that is Surgeon's Mastery and also Physician's Mastery, and immediately he proceeded back to India and he started his work in India. Now what is interesting is, you all must be knowing, but I will repeat it, that it was in the memory of Dr. B.C. Roy that we have every 1st July to be celebrated as Doctor's Day. He was born on that day, he died on the same day. He was also for more than 14 years the chief minister of West Bengal. Now, he was the only chief minister who used to, during every day of his life, every day he used to spend 1 hour with his patients. Now, this is not important. What is important is coming now. Dr. B.C. Roy was, it is told and it is said, and you can check it on Google, that he could smell, he could see, and he could feel the disease. So he was in love with his subject, and he has something called diagnosis. And that diagnosis was such that in Bartholomew Hospital, there was a famous case. When he would visit in the morning, on a morning round of the ward, he would tell the nurses there that so-and-so who is there in that bed number so-and-so, please take special care of him because he may not be with us for long. And he would also say that that particular, some other patient will be only for 2 days with us, thereafter he will go home. He could feel that that was his diagnosis. Now, this may send a wrong message to you that you must have magical powers like what Dr. B.C. Roy had. This is what he developed. Of course, there is inherent ability. And the inherent ability is a desire to be successful, to be a winner. As Shiv Khera says, the famous writer who is still living with us at this point of time in Delhi, and I had a good fortune of meeting him. Winners don't do different things. They do the same things differently. So Dr. B.C. Roy, I have quoted, who won the Bharat Ratna, the bronze award with the white ribbon to be worn in the neck. And he became he was a very successful physician to Mahatma Gandhi and to several other leaders. And wherever he went, if anybody came to know that he is getting off the railway station, at that time, the train used to be means of communication, there would be thousands who will come to greet him, not because they wanted to see him as a leader. They say, treat me because I have got a chronic case. And he had a tremendous diagnosis. So I am bringing that example today. I'm sharing with you because I'm inspired by his example also, that we should develop a diagnosis. My second suggestion to you, which according to me, is the take home from this presentation of mine is, please try and recollect, did you write in your life a love letter? If you have not, are you in the process of writing one to somebody? Or have you seen somebody's love letter which has impressed you? Then you will realize how difficult it is to write a love letter. It is such a difficult item that you tear 10 and 20 letters before you can say that this letter is worth even putting into motion. The love letter requires you to conceive everything. Now we are starting the drafting, my dear. The drafting of a love letter and a document is on a same pedestal. It is not different. Once you have decided that you want to write to somebody, let's take that example first, and I'm going to repeat and connect it here again and again. And please understand there is a direct nexus. If you don't have that affection, that passion, and that attachment, and that do or die about that relationship which you are expecting by means of that letter in your document, you will never have a success. After completing every document, you must have a relaxation, like as if that you just achieved something great in your life, because you could really complete a document which you are satisfied and proud about. So when you write a love letter, you know that what you want to convey to the lady. If you are a male and writing to a female, you want to know what you want to convey. You want to talk about yourself, but not to say blow your trumpet. You want to write about her and praise that what you want to really get out of her. The physical, the metaphysical, the spiritual, the romantic, all that you conceive, everything. Then you also know where to stop. Then you know if this letter falls in the hands of somebody else other than her, then how will this letter will be looked? So you put it in the boundaries of decency, and then you try to make it into a manner whereby that letter becomes a piece of drafting without making it top heavy. So you know where to stop, how much language to use, how to construct that letter and how to write, depending upon your relationship. Same thing happens with your document. So if you are, as I said, like Dr. B.C. Roy, you should have the diagnostic confidence, and you should have a sense of skill which makes you feel as a doctor How do you succeed? Why are you different from other doctors? You are different because you have that special skill. The same way, why will you become a good draftsman and not your friend next to you who sat in the class of 50 and who could not really score anything? And he said, drafting ko chodo. I know about law, so I go to court, I appear in the court, I shout at top of my voice, I've won many matters, I've got a lot of clients lining up because I do section 138 cases, maybe I go to consumer court, maybe I go to the arbitration law, and I'm very good, and my father was in criminal, I'm also doing criminal. This is how that your friends talk about. But you say, my dear sir, try and draft, no? And let me share with you another secret without demeaning anybody, because this platform is, as Chatrat explained to me, is for a transparent interaction. I want to share with you, I know lot of luminaries in this country. Lot of luminaries, let me tell you, in my 45 years career I have met. But there are very few of them who can say that, please stop, I'm going to dictate, call the steno, I want to dictate this. You are not written correctly, I want to write correctly. Because they don't dare doing that because they are afraid. And let me tell you, there are some really respectable, great luminaries who do this, but they tear 10 drafts before they settle the one draft. And they say, no, this was not okay, I want to do again. Because they're honest, they are sincere. So drafting is not everybody's cup of tea. And if you can acquire it, you can make a niche for yourself and you can reach somewhere, which is very important. Now, we go to the next aspect of drafting, because this is the beginning. If you don't reach here, you can't go anywhere. The question is, when you start drafting, what are there are so many cookery shows in this lockdown which are coming. Even I'm watching many on the YouTube as well as on the screen. They always tell you what are the ingredients required, what are the instruments required, what is the knowledge required. Then they tell you the process. So for a good drafting, what do you require? For a good drafting, what you require is a complete concept of what you are drafting about. That subject you must know about and you must work on. It is not only law, because you may be called upon to draft, as me and Chatrat were talking while he was rather pepping up and also trying to know as to what I'm going to do and what I do well and what I can really share with you. He said, what about this will? How do you draft? The documents, because the real estate has become a very complex area. It is not remained between the two covers of a textbook that you have got an agreement for sale and a joint development agreement. And what is there? There are so many drafts. And now on the net, and forget net, the estate agents and the brokers have become so overwise that they say that I've got a draft also ready. You want to sell, he wants to buy, I make the draft. Why do you want to go to the lawyer? Because they are supposed to be on the move, the draftsmen who have got all the copies. And at one point of time, there used to be an expression for the lawyers and in English language called boiler clauses. So boiler clauses were supposed to be a standard clauses, and very famous out of that was supposed to be force majeure clause. What has happened to that force majeure clause right now during this epidemic and this pandemic is a great tragedy of our times. Everybody reads his force majeure clause, or anybody has anything to do with the other party for claiming immunity or for the purpose of getting concession or a discharge, and he finds uske clause mein to wo baat hai hi nahi. Because the problem is that clause has been virtually copycat clauses are copied and taken up. So first and foremost thing is like a cookery. You must understand that the culinary art requires you to prepare here also. The drafting requires you get ready. I cannot resist the temptation of sharing with you one another example which will bring home the point. And this has got something directly related to drafting lesson. In 1974-75, one Frenchman and one American, they became very famous because before 74, in 61 and 64, they wrote two books. One book was known as Is Paris Burning? The second book was on the history of Israel called O Jerusalem. That was the book of, I would say, that the Jews are proud of. These books were written by these two writers, Dominic Lapierre and Larry Collins. Dominic Lapierre was, as from his name you can make out, he was a Frenchman, and Larry Collins was an American. These two books made a great success, and people went gaga over it, because that was a book on which that you had every information about Israel, you had every information about France, but it was not a history book. It won't let you sleep, and it won't let you consider कि क्या पढ़ रहा हूँ मैं, मेरा सिर दर्द कर रहा है. Nothing. It was a live story which was going on. So sitting in London and sipping their coffee, they decided, why don't we write a book about the 2 years of India, 1947 and 1948. Only 2 years, when Lord Mountbatten was appointed the Viceroy of India. From there till Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated, this period they wanted to write a book, and they wanted to write a book. So first thing, how do you get ready for drafting? Please now take step by step. They went and met Mr. Mountbatten, and he met and he said that luckily Mountbatten told them that, my dear sir, I have read your books and I have appreciated your books. I am fan and I have read the East Paris Burning 10 times. I have enjoyed that book. Now tell me, what can we do? He said, we want to write a book. He said, come to my estate. It was near London, called Broadlands. He took them. He had a basement in his house. He took them there. It will be worth learning. Sometime this is called indirect learning. So you may think that, why are we talking about this? This book is called Freedom at Midnight. So he went to Mountbatten, and Mountbatten opened all his cupboards and his treasures and allowed them to see all the papers. Not only that, he helped them. And he said that, why don't you go and give in London Times a news article and advertisement calling everybody who was with the empire during that period. Then why don't they come forward and share their experience? They did that. They went to Pakistan, they got information. To briefly tell you, what they got ready with was, before writing the book, the Frenchman and the American, they wondered, which no other Indian has written about. They wondered why it was 15th August. Why not 14th? Why not September? So they asked Mountbatten directly the question. Nobody has asked that before. They asked, what was so special about 15th August? Mountbatten said, do you want to know truly why I selected that? I selected that date. I selected because 1 year before 15th August 47, Japan surrendered to me as the chief commander of the Southern Command. And that date remained in my mind. So I said, India should be free on 15th August. That was my selection. Then they also found from the various research that the astrologers were against India becoming free on 15th August. So they made further search. So they asked Mountbatten once again, why not 14th? Because so many Congress leaders had told him that, why don't you declare it on 14th? He said, what could I do? I flew down to Karachi to give the king's message to Pakistan. And on that day, I was in Karachi. So 14th August became for Pakistan and 15th August became for India. So that's how 15th was selected. But India was sentimental about this 15th. So at the stroke of the midnight, in the Parliament House, the Union Jack came down and the Tiranga went up. And there was Radhakrishnan, there was Rajendra Prasad, there was Suchita Kruplani, there was Bismillah Khan, and there was the Sare Jahan Se Acha, and Bismillah Khan Sainai was there. And that is where the independence was declared. And that's how the matter came about. So this is what they collected. Not only that, they had 800 kilogram weight of documents with them before they start writing the first chapter. And they had 900 interviews in writing with them, which they had collected beforehand. Before that, nobody had done this research part of it for writing a book on India's freedom. And that book became, apart from, there were many anecdotes which this evening can probably interest you and thrill you. In their research, they found a doctor, and that doctor disclosed the X-ray plates of Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And those plates they took to Mountbatten and showed that this is Muhammad Ali Jinnah's chest X-ray. He said, if this was shown to me in 1946-47, I would have deferred the independence, by which time Jinnah would have died, because his life was only 6 months after that. So This is the way that the research took place. And last, I can't resist this temptation to share. They were wondering, how was the assassination of Gandhi done? For them, luckily, the 4 conspirators were released in 72-73 while they were writing the book. They took Madanlal Pahwa, Godse Gopal, and Vishnu Karkare, all 3 conspirators with their family, to Delhi. They reenacted the whole scene of the crime at Birla House, which is now known as Gandhi Smriti, on 30 January Marg, Delhi. They went there, they stayed there. They went with them to the station where they had a dinner before the killing and that murder which they took done along with Godse. And all that information they were gathered in their 776 pages book called Freedom at Midnight. Now that book is today also unrivaled. Why? What is so great about a Frenchman and American writing an Indian history with no other Indian has achieved? Drafting, my dear sir. That drafting is on account of the fact. And apart from this, there are several stories which are there, which is I can assure you, you will find nowhere. That book I have read when I was in 76, I have read, you can put my age, what I was in 76, I was on my way to become a lawyer. And today, after 45 years of practice, I have read again Freedom at Midnight. And I find wonderful piece of drafting. So what you require, now here comes the secret. You require research. You require understanding of the subject. You require understanding of finance, economics. You require business, and you require thought about the entire matter. When I got into, now I'm sharing with you, this is what you've come here for, and I'm very proud and privileged to share with you. I became accidentally a real estate lawyer and a draftsman. There were lawyers, because I believe that a lot of lawyers think that being in the real estate means a lot of money. Though business has changed its trend recently, but it still remains brick and mortar economy has its own great attraction to people, and there is a lot of money involved because the inflation in the developing countries very high and rampant, as a result of which the real estate is always booming. As a result, question arose that how do you become a good real estate lawyer? If you want to be a good real estate lawyer, the first thing you must know about the construction industry. Then you must know about how the construction is done. Then you must also know about how the properties are purchased and how they are sold. Then you must also acquire knowledge how there is a source of money, how they are mortgaged, what is the security. If there is a subject is a security of the real estate article, then in that event, how do you realize? How do you enforce security? How people cheat? How you can plug the loopholes and how you can protect yourself against those kinds of, I would say, shenanigans which people do in business. That if you don't have what a client does not teach you and tell you, he comes to test you, my dear sir. I have another secret to share with you on my way. Those who are above 35 and 40 as a client, they are already experienced. Either they have gone through the insolvency route and lost money and come to in this industry, or they have done many business, but they have come to real estate now with a view to make money. They have experienced, they have seen many lawyers before they sit on your table. Now, if you have nothing new to offer to them, there is no novelty which they have about you, because they know more about things than you know about. So you must have, as I always say, a special skill set of your business. And that skill set is either you should have a great drafting skill, or you should have a great insight that people think he has a diagnosis. He has a sharp memory. He can look into, he has an insight into subject. Before the client tells you the facts, you know exactly where to go because you are 10 steps ahead of him. This is what the drafting requires you. So unless you are Dominic Lapierre and Larry Collins, you can't be a writer of Freedom at Midnight. And unless you are Dr. B.C. Roy, there will not be people thronging on the railway stations to meet where is Dr. Saab. And every evening, there will have to be shutters pulled down before the new patients are rushing in, saying, "Ek baar mera haath dekh lo." So, and there is a famous case about Dr. B.C. Roy, that he was so busy, he came to meet Panditji in Delhi. He was his good friend. because he was a Congress ministry's chief minister, longest serving from 1948 to 1962. So somebody from the PMO said, "Isko dekh lo, Dr. Saab, bichara nahi theek nahi hai." He said, "Iska problem kya hai?" So that guy had a big bundle of reports. He said, this may be, a lot of people will be sharing his problem, that when I get up in the morning, I get vertigo. Then he also shared that I've got a back problem and I feel that it is not going anywhere. It has reached to a level where I will lose my job because my employers do not want me to be there, because every time I talk about chakkar and chakkar and chakkar, what do I do? So everybody thought around Dr. Roy that he is going to now examine him. He will make him sleep and check and all that. So Dr. Roy looked at him and looked at him and looked at him. And he said, "Ek baat mujhe batao, tum sote kaise ho?" So he said, "मैं south में सिर रखता हूँ, north में पैर रखता हूँ." तो बोला, "तुम्हारा सिर बदल दो, change your head." Everybody said doctor must have slightly lost it because of his heavy schedule. He said, "No, he is like a needle in the magnetic field of the earth. Unless he changes his sleeping position, his problems will continue. Look at the insight of the man." And it worked. That man was lifetime his devotee, his Bhagat. So you must have that diagnostic. Let me tell you something. Because you wear good clothes, therefore you don't become a handsome actor. Because you've got a great packing, therefore the product doesn't sell forever. Because you've got a great English, you don't become a great lawyer. And because you know how to draft, because a lot of people say, which type you use, what kind of lettering, what capital, what underlining, do you follow American style, do you follow the English style? Now, I will take you through that also in few minutes. But the question is, this is semantics. This is structure. This is not spirit. The spirit is the content of it. Once you know the subject and once you know how to write the love letter, it's the best love letter which you have. Mr. Javed Akhtar in his biography, autobiography, has said that he was, in his early young years, a great love letter writer for his college students. And he was so famous that he did not have to write left and center, because there was always a queue of friends who said, "Ek likh do na yaar, iski zindagi bana di, meri bhi bana do." So this is a skill which you have because you know what you are writing. The same way here, in drafting, you require that skill. Now we will take that skill into action. I'll give you example, as they say, taja sab deta hu, like very, very fresh wafer coming out of the oven. I'm giving you a very, very fresh example. This morning, and with no exaggeration, my very brilliant client, who is a chartered accountant and a gold medalist and a seasoned builder, he's paying somebody a money for assignment of the property. You have to listen to this carefully, otherwise you'll miss it. He called me because he said, "I don't want you to draft anything. I want you to see, because these are lockdown days and I need to pay." I could see that he's too confident of himself and he's a great draftsman himself. So he says, "मैं आपको एक document भेजता हूँ, आप देख के मुझे बताओ कि should I sign it and should I pay the money, because otherwise the man will go back and he will not be good." Now the flights have started between Bombay and Bangalore and Madras. So he said, "I would like to do this." I looked at the document. I said, "Have you lost it?" He said, "What happened?" He was taking assignment. Now, this is the drafting lesson you are on. He had sold some property to somebody before in 2011. Market went up and down, and now that party wants to sell him back, and it means a lot to him to buy that property. So he was taking assignment of right under that agreement. And then he said that I have to pay the full money, I have to take charge, and I have to ensure that he doesn't come back to me, because this man holds a lot of grudge against me. So you make it a document that I don't want to trouble in future. From that angle, you examine the document. Now let's examine the document. What was the examination revealing? The diagnosis came out of that agreement was 6 places in that agreement he wrote, the assigner is saying, "We agree to assign," and assignee says, "We agree to take assignment and purchase of this. We agree, we agree, we agree," 6 times. Second part, I saw the clause. The clause said that in the event of any provision or a clause of this agreement is found to be not legal, not valid, not enforceable in any law or any jurisdiction, then in that event, the remaining clauses and the remaining provisions of this agreement will remain valid and will be enforceable. Now, this clause 100% has been copied from another American draft. Because what are you talking about? You are paying him cash and carry. You are paying him few crores of rupees across the table. You are taking from him all the rights. Why should you provide for such a clause that any clause is invalid? Now the sailor who has got a grudge against him, he is going to look for where he can find a fault and say that this is invalid, that is invalid. You yourself say if that is invalid, it will remain, but balance will be okay. Now, you should be on the contrary saying that nothing will make this document go bad. It is irrevocable because I paid full money and nothing is remaining. Now, this was a lapse not expected of the man that I'm talking about, and extremely erudite and scholarly, but people miss it because drafting is not everybody's cup of tea. Now the question comes is, if you are taking a assignment in present time and you are taking the document right now, which is in the nature of a full absolute transfer, why will you say I agree to assign? That means something needs to be done. It's executory. It's not final. If such a scenario happens, then you yourself say that this is an executory contract and it is not a final assignment. Now, I believe that I am giving you few hints at what the drafting is all about. This drafting is not something which it will not come clause by clause and you will by heart it, because don't be a copycat and don't be parrot, because if you try to parrot the draft, you land into problem. Now, let me share with you what happens when you land up into doing that kind of copycat situation. It came up thrice. It came up before the Supreme Court. I'll give you only one example, which should be worth listening to and worth noting, that in the case of a case came before the Supreme Court where somebody, an enthusiastic lawyer who did not understand much of drafting, but he wanted to sound very, very high-fangled, and he wanted to sound very scholarly, and he wanted to be a drafting king. So as a result of which, what he did was that in the draft, he says, in witness whereof the parties here to have set and subscribed their hands and seals on the day and year first hearing of written. This was done, but both parties had not signed the document. In the case of Alka Bose versus Paramatma Devi, this came from a place not other than Patna High Court, and the matter went up to the Supreme Court. It came up in 2008 before Satasivam, Justice Satasivam and Justice Ravindran, where the court with great difficulty helped the party, saying that though the defense taken by the other side, the vendor was, I signed it. Look at the document, wanted it to be signed by two parties. He has not signed. If he has not signed, it is incomplete. If a document is incomplete, it is not enforceable. He paid money, he didn't pay money, all that you forget about. What about in witness or of parties yet to set and subscribe the respective hands and seals? If this is written, what is the intent? He knows English. He was guided by lawyer. Poor lawyer who must have copied this draft and blindly stuck it there. What he meant was that document should look very, how will you impress a client? Indenture, witness it. And this document in witness whereof the parties have to set and subscribe, signed, sealed, delivered by. All that when you write, the client feels very scholarly. Drafting is great. He must have gone to college, and my father was a lawyer, his grandfather was a lawyer, his great-grandfather was a lawyer. Motilal Nehru type of a lineage. Oh, what a lineage. But this is what the lineage has resulted into. With great difficulty, Supreme Court say this is all archaic. This doesn't matter. What was important was that they took the money. What was important was that they intended to sell. What was important was that the parties thereafter, how they acted. So surrounding circumstances make us feel that this is not going to be acceptable, that this was incomplete, therefore will not go by this. Let me share with you that there are few expressions which remain in our memory. While we are in the college, we come out, we work with some senior, we go. Like for example, the words like signed, sealed and delivered by. Stevie Wonder, who was born in 1950, a great American singer who won the Oscar for the original score, original song, I Just Called to Say Hello, I Love You. That was the song he wrote and he sang. He also wrote a song, Oh Baby, I signed, sealed, delivered, and I'm here for you. My future is in your hand. That was also what he sang. So signed, sealed, and delivered is in American music, English music. There are serials which have been made on the signed, sealed, delivered title because that has remained in our memory and we think it's a very great thing. We should remember because that looks and appears and makes us look like people who are legally very sound and we have studied it and we are very knowledgeable. But when to write, how to write, in what context to write, that is where your knowledge comes into picture, you're conceiving it. So now question comes is that today we are in the times, my dear, when I believe that the billing is very important. Hours are very important. The lawyers sacrifice their lives, their personal lives, they sweat out and they somehow want to impress the client and die for them, thinking that I'll bill it and I'll get the money for it. Billing is of course important because you have to survive. But this question is, what are you giving him? And for what are you putting those hours? So for that you require understanding of the subject. Now we come to a very different, very small example. That will, which Chatra talked to me about while we were talking to just fix this program. That, for example, you want to make a will. You can, because I have done 45 years, I have done will. And let me tell you, those who are the beginners or those who are the new lawyers, the first request which will come from your girlfriend's father, your neighbor, your father's partner, or somebody who is in the circle or on a bus stop, anybody meets you. Who are you? I am a lawyer. Are can you make a will? So in any party, any gathering, any social occasion, the first request comes is, why don't you make my will? And you think, will, that is below my dignity. Will anybody can make. You go on the net and you can find will. There are printed wills there. Single will, joint will, cross will, mutual will, living will. You can have so many wills. All are available. Go. Not so simple, my dear sir. Because when you make a will, you need to be careful about these so many aspects of the matter, because for document making and for will making, taking instructions and having questionnaire about it or a checklist is very important. Some people make checklist in the head also, having a mental checklist, and some have a written checklist. You must find out whether the man has one wife, two wives, children, some child has died, was he married, further children, property, jointly held, cross held, his wife is, are their relations okay, or is there supposed to be a possibility of some separation or a divorce ongoing? One does not know. Then how many executors to be appointed, who to be there as a person, whether that executor will survive him or he will die before him. Some information you require. You don't have to be his doctor, you don't have to be his, so to say, a social advisor, but you should have all this information because before you draft. Because the question arises is, I'll give you a very small example about will making. A lady principal came to me who is a widow. She said that I have my one son and I've got one daughter, both are abroad, but I have one flat. I want to give them, but it is my desire that my flat should not be sold by my children because I think they are not capable of handling the money. And I think that I don't know when I will die. So what was her brief was, she told me that I want to provide for a period of 10 years. They will not sell after my death. I said, do you by any chance know when will you die? She said, how can I know? How can you ask such question? I said that, madam, you may die after 10 years and then further 10 years, what will happen to them? Because what will be their lives? She said, that is a question, but somehow this is in my mind for a long time. I want to keep it in my will. I said, no, please don't try to write the will of your client. Because many people say, usko to nahi dene ka, aise nahi karne ka, wo kaise sambhalega, wo kha jayega, वो बेच देगा, अरे उसका तो अक्कल ही नहीं है, उसका तो ये ऐसा हो जाएगा, फिर टैक्स का क्या होगा, वो कैसे करेगा, वो रीइन्वेस्ट करेगा, उसका मैरिज नहीं हुआ है, उसकी वाइफ क्लेम करेगी. If you try to do this, then you will never be able to make any will. So don't interfere with the will, but give them a right, correct advice at a correct spot. So I asked this lady, तो 10 साल हो गए, चलो फिर क्या होगा? Well, in this 10 years, they can come and stay, but I will tell you, the relation between brother and sister are not good. I said, but then how will they stay together? Then they say, they must inform each other in advance. Who is coming, who is going. One who is staying, he will go. Then one who is not staying will come. I said, who is going to monitor this flat? Flat is supposed to be some Birla Lodge or something, that you have manager, ek aaya, ek gaya. He said, that's a complicated. But now this was one aspect. Then the second aspect was, she said that I don't believe in bank lockers. I said, this is a revelation to me. I am also having a least faith in bank lockers because the law does not help. I don't want to take this discussion there, but I'm just sharing with you. The claim you can make against a bank for the breakup of locker and to realize the money is the most difficult case which you can ever fight, and try and find out a judgment on this subject that anybody has received money or a claim against the bank running a locker. I said, I also don't have much faith, but karenge to kya karenge? She said, I've got a cupboard in my house. I said, that's a wonderful thing. What cupboard do you have? She said, wooden. I said, wooden cupboard you want to rely upon, but not a locker? She says, yes, no faith in the locker. I said, now what next? She says, I've got 2 boxes. One box for the girl, one box for a boy. And on that, I have put the label. And I said, which jewelry belongs to whom? So after I die, apart from many assets, she is quite wealthy. So she said that one box will go to the boy and one box will go to the girl. I said, madam, do you want to write what is in the box? She says, no, I'm going to give copy of the will to my children. If I will tell them the content, then there is going to be a problem because they will know which jewelry I have given to whom. So I want to write about that one box I will give to boy and one box I will give to girl. It struck to me while drafting the document that so far as the adhesives are concerned, they are very treacherous. The gum or the Fevicols, because after some time they dry, and after drying the labels fall off. I asked her a question that if the boy's label is down and the girl's label is also down from the box, and these both boxes are in the wardrobe, and they open and they both say that ye mera, ye tumhara, to ye usme pata kaise chalega kiska kaun sa box hai? She says, you are making my life very miserable because this never struck me that my label will come out. How will I go about? I said, why don't you do one thing instead? That put it in a seal cover, the list about what is with whom, then put the label, and if required, at least in the cupboard, you say that one is on the first shelf and the second is on the second shelf. So it is identifiable. Even if some mishap happens, earthquake, something, then you will know where is what, and that seal cover will help. This is what is expected as some sort of a common sense, small input that you can give in the midst of will. I will also take to you in 2 minutes more, because this will complete your will aspect, that a lot of people come to me by saying that मेरा एक friend है उसको मुझे भी executor बनाने का. Then he says मेरी wife का भी एक friend है उसको भी बनाने का, because वो लड़ेगी नहीं तो वो बोलेगी मेरे friend को नहीं बनाया. Then he says I believe that both of them will fight because they both cannot see eye to eye. Both executors are not friendly. Therefore, let's appoint third one also. I said it is like 3 judges bench of the Supreme Court. Probably they will agree or they will disagree always. How will you go about? So making will is not an easy aspect. You require to take a full instruction, understanding the, I would say, the dynamics of their business, dynamics of their family, what is their intent, and assisting them in a best manner. How can they really achieve this purpose of their life and go about? I will share with you now last one experience of mine, that while I was doing all this and doing law, in 1975, I went to the United Kingdom to do my solicitors, and I became Solicitor Supreme Court of England. During that period, I also worked in London in an English law firm, and I learned many things from there, and that taught me that our law and their law is extremely different. The kind of challenges with drafting offers in India does not offer in England. For example, you want to draft a power of attorney. Lot of lawyers in India, throughout India, they make their living out of making power of attorneys for people. Because small things happen. बच्चा पढ़ने जा रहा है, एक power ले लो. उसकी शादी हो गई, एक power ले लो. शादी के पहले ले लेना, बाद में नहीं देगा. उससे पास ले लो. वो फादर का तबीयत ठीक नहीं है, एक हॉस्पिटल जाते एक power ले लो. ये power की ये दुनिया है. So there is some power of attorney specialists are there moving in every town, city, and villages. Now, question arises is that if we are having this power of attorney in England, there is a Power of Attorney Act. So you have one paragraph power of attorney. So those who have got an experience of having the children or the relatives staying abroad and sending a power of attorney, they are always one pager power of attorney referring to all powers under the Power of Attorney Act so and so. When I saw that, I was taken aback. I said, "ये तो आधा धंधा तो ठप पड़ गया इधर ही, कोई है ही नहीं. अगर ये इधर आ गया तो क्या होगा?" So situation is, life is different. Let me tell you, the property law in this country, which I have spoken from public platforms to government and to various committees, the most complicated property law exists in this country. And if it was less, now we have got Real Estate Regulation and Development Act 2016 throughout length and the breadth of this country. It has brought transparency, it has brought system, it has brought, I would say, it's a complete code by itself, but it has changed the way you think. Now, when you allow the property to be developed as an owner, you have to think whether you will become a co-promoter. You have to think about that developer. Invariably today, the whole dynamics of business has changed. This part I must share with you, because according to me, this will help those who are not very much in it or they're hands-on with the real estate work. Today, very rarely that a buyer or a developer pays you full 100% money and takes your property and conveys and goes home and allows you to use the standard drafts which you studied in college. Today, the situation is all over India that every purchaser of a property who is buying a substantial amount of property, what he does is, he says, X paisa le lo, Y area le lo. तो मैं आपको इतने रुपये दूंगा, इतना कंस्ट्रक्ट करके दूंगा. अब आपकी मुसीबत शुरू हो गई. You must understand when will he construct, whether he will give me first, whether he will give me, we will give to his purchasers, but he will not give me with a view to harass me, with a view to probably get even with me, or he will not construct as he is promising. There will not be specification, there will not be amenities, or he will cheat me with the area. This drafting, when you do, this is unique to India and Pakistan. This both places have got. The whole system works differently. The whole dynamics in the business and the structure is different, and for which a lawyer and a draftsman has to understand the business. He has to understand the mindset. He has to understand the shortcomings. He has to understand, to list out Contract Act, Transfer of Property Act, Specific Relief Act with amendment of 2018 and 19, which has changed the entire specific performance law. He has to understand constitutional and environmental law. He has to understand force majeure very well, because it is not only your licensee and a lessee and a tenant talks about force majeure. Your developer purchaser also talks about force majeure. Your borrower also talks about force majeure. Your person who is doing a construction contract or development or interior, he is also talking of force majeure. And it looks like that this epidemic is going to develop some further epidemics also. The bubonic plague and whatnot is on the card. So you must familiarize yourself, whether you like or not, with force majeure. If that happens, how long will it defer? Because people will say, "ये तो भाई force majeure में आ गया." तो जो मैं बोला था, that is all suspended. It will revive when the normalcy comes in. Normalcy किस चीज की होगी? Whether it will be hygienic, whether it will be health, whether it will be financial, whether it will be credit, whether it will be supply, whether it will be work, whether it will be workforce, whether it will be supplying of the construction material. How many things are we talking about? Because every day RBI issues new circulars suspending the working. Every day courts are deciding differently. Every day state governments are issuing restrictions on the transport and movement of people. In view of that, law is still developing. There are few judgments of the Delhi High Court which are making rounds at the moment, but I'm sure they are not end all. There is Supreme Court and there are other courts which will decide circumstances in which this could be done. And entire business of malls, shopping malls, plazas, hiring of anchor tenants has gone into sea change, and the drafting requires you to sit quietly and think what you're going to do. We have got in Bombay some sites which are there for lawyers, which are saying, please kindly give me some latest force majeure clauses. What an innocent demand. I can understand people want to gather information. कि किसी ने सोचा होगा तो दो ना भैया, कैसे करने का force majeure का clause. You have to see what is the transaction. You have to see what is the occasion. You have to see what is the context in which force majeure will come, for whom you are drafting, whether ultimately every contract. This is my, I've completed my 1 hour. I'm now on my wind up and my last leg. I want to share with you that sometimes we draft like we think that mother is there to serve and we are at the dining table and we can ask for anything. Ye lao, wo lao, jada lao, kam lao. So when we sit down to draft, we think drafting kya? मैं बनाता हूँ ना, देखो कैसा बनाता हूँ, ऐसा बनाता हूँ, ऐसा बनाता हूँ. And the people sit with their steno till he collapses also and keeps on dictating, not realizing that somebody is there in this world to see your draft. He's going to correct your draft. Problem which arises is that one-sided drafts, apart from what happened in the DLF case with the Competition Commission, which brought about the whole world down, it says one-sided contract not valid. After that judgment, in every possible case, one-sided or two-sided or one-sided goes on, and the whole jurisprudence has changed. Same way, when you draft one-sided bias contracts, please understand that the other side will scratch it with a red pen 6 times, saying ye bhi nahi chalega, ye bhi nahi. In the end, what was reasonable will also go. So you must, the balanced drafting, the art of drafting involves that don't go overboard. Be specific, guard your client, protect them, create a proper mechanism, but ensure that this is going to be vetted by somebody. Somebody is going to wait. Nobody is going to be blind and nobody is going to buy it because either I have gray hair or I will keep on saying I have spent 45 years. They will say, but still you have not learned how to do really a proper and a balanced draft. How can you expect such thing to happen? So I believe drafting requires a balanced attitude. It requires you to go through and consider many things. Last thing I want to share with you this evening, and this is a genuinely last, and that is this, that a question arose in one matter. This will also give you some sort of a technical, I would say, leverage. Many times we draft a document and we say कि उसके अंदर देखो मुझे लिखा नहीं है ना कि इसको नहीं assign नहीं कर सकते हैं transfer. Nobody, if he has not written, no problem. That means that this is allowed. I can sell and transfer and go away. Similar question arose in the case of Kokila Ben. This judgment, Kapila Ben, which you must read. This is in 2019. Justice Shanta Gowdar's judgment. It is an Anirudh Bose, in which the whole law has been very succinctly, very beautifully seen. I'm repeating that for those who may see now or may see in future, because I made a mistake about the name first time. Kapila Ben and others versus Ashok Kumar, Jantilal Sheth and others. It came from Ahmedabad and the matter went up to Supreme Court from Gujarat High Court. Into that a question arose, a beautifully good matter, beautifully. And in that the whole law has been captured. What is the law? When somebody agrees to sell a property, property transactions are कि जो है ना फिर मिलेंगे अगले जन्म में, ऐसी कहानी प्रॉपर्टियों में होती रहती है. When you agree to sell, the transaction never gets over in 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year. It goes on for 6, 7, 8, 10 years. This matter also the same thing. They agreed to sell, A agreed to sell to B, but there was no provision barring that B cannot sell. So B agreed to sell to C, and there was no provision allowing B to sell, but B still sold to C. And they went about doing that. Ultimately, the transaction was challenged by A. He said, what is the question? I agreed to sell to B. If B has agreed to sell to C, then it is not binding on me. Let him go to court, do what he likes to do. Matter went to the High Court, matter went to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court ultimately came to the conclusion that whether there is a bar or no, there is something called Section 40 of the Transfer of Property Act. Then there is a Section 15, subsection B of Specific Relief Act. Representative of a purchaser can seek specific performance or not. All that was considered in this judgment. And this judgment educates you more than anything else for the purpose of drafting. Now, what is the purpose of my telling you at the fag end of this 1 hour 15 minutes of my tirade on drafting? Purpose is you must know Specific Relief Act. You must know it's a law of equity. You must understand that how to enforce the contract. Because it is like a halwai who is cooking but not knowing that whether he is cooking one mithai or a namkeen. And he does not know how it tastes because he never consumes it. If you make contracts without realizing what is going to be the end result in the court, then you will never be a successful lawyer. So my dear friends, the drafting requires all this. And I believe, please don't get disheartened that ye sab to mere saath hua hi nahi. Every time you see a movie, you don't say that कि यहाँ मेरी वाइफ कहाँ है या मैं कहाँ हूँ. हो सकता है वो भी आपके साथ घटेगा, और नहीं भी हुआ तो देख तो लिया कि क्या हो सकता है किसी के साथ. तो आज का जो पर्पस था वो ये था कि मैं आपसे शेयर करूं कि ये सारी चीजों को you have to gather. You must have a experience, you must have knowledge, you must have facts, you must have concept, you must have central idea, you must conceive a document. And don't forget the love letter. Always compare your document with a love letter. Will your beloved like it? Will it succeed? Will there be the arrow of the Cupid will reach its destination or not? That's the purpose. Once you have achieved that, you are the winner. As Shiv Khera says, winners don't do different things. They do the same things differently. Do it differently, but show it that it has got a stem. As once Raj Kapoor said that कि अगर मैं Raj Kapoor नहीं भी होता, फिल्में भी नहीं बनाता, मैं मोची भी होता, तो मैं आर के मोची होता. So you should have that kind of a passion कि अगर मैं जो भी हूँ, मैं हूँ, मेरे ड्राफ्ट आप पढ़ लेना, जिसके भी हाथ में आएगा वो पूछेगा किया किसने, बनाया किसने. Because you have got a 360-degree view of your subject on sale, on intellectual property, on joint ventures, on merger, on demerger, on scientific research, on confidentiality, on apprentice document. Every subject has an interest. I have a son and a daughter who both are lawyers. They initially used to say, Papa, this is so boring. How does it go about property all the time and transactions and documents? Now they say how interesting, how challenging, how it can take you from this world to another orbit. And that's what the purpose is. At the end of the day, you should be happy with your love letter. Thank you very much, Chatratji, for giving me this opportunity. And I believe I have completed my 1 hour 15 minutes. If there are any questions, I'll love to answer them. I look forward to talking and interacting with our friends here this evening. Thank you.
We have posted on the group that questions can be posted, but few people have asked that if you could just share the books, what you have done. We can share it on the WhatsApp group, which we have created of Beyond Law. And I would just like to share that because of the people like you coming on the platform, we have more than 11 groups of the WhatsApp plus 4,000 followers on the Facebook itself, to the effect that what sessions you people can do. As you said, you invariably relied upon Shiv Khera, again, an erudite speaker just like you, with whose his books speak volume for the selling and invariably as a motivational speaker. While I was listening to you, I thought that while we were only having art of drafting, I also thought at the same time, you also have the art of motivating. And they say that each word itself carries connotation, and why drafting is paramount is important. That as they say in Hindi, like what you said, you came from the regional language, invariably while we give reference to the commas, pauses, etc., that it's anyway changes the entire emphasis. You know better than me that it's a very common connotation which we often say, how the comma can change the meaning. It says roko mat jane do and roko mat jane do. The comma from roko mat and roko, the entire emphasis and the entire gamut changes. So same way what you told us that the drafting itself changes with the entire context. That is a very fantastic thing. And then you said that the drafting, etc., is paramount. Also tells us that it's a unique selling point for anyone, any lawyer, any person. It's paramount. And then you said that for the purposes of drafting, the culinary skills, the recipe, the ingredients are very important. That was a point well taken by all of us, because as they said, in a lighter vein, the wife asks the husband and says that today what should I make? Because it's just like a draft. The husband says, first you make it, then we will give the name of the food what you have made. So it says invariably only till now, everybody has just praised about it, except for the fact that they're asking the books which you have referred. So could we have that books which you have referred plus the citations if your son and daughters could help us on this issue? I will just
you will get that, and I'll send you separately, which you can share. No issue about that.
So still, because large number of people, because the way you have actually kept us spellbound as you refer to the musicians and all, it was just like a symphony. We are hearing a symphony, this thing, and everyone was so spellbound that invariably they are only asking that it was an amazing session and the time window was small, and any books they are asking which has to be asked. I can only say, because 15-20 minutes had been discussed with you at the time when we requested you to give the insights. I could just ask you that let's not, if the people are not asking this thing, questions, we can ask. You have given the drafting. How do you motivate the people once, as you all know that the profession is an uphill task and quite challenging. As they say, there is a lot of competition at the bottom, but you are lonely at the top. But to reach on the top is always difficult. So what are your keys and how do you motivate people that how to create a niche when they all say, as we all talk of nepotism, not only in the film industry, but we all talk of nepotism in all the professions as such. So how do you create a niche and how do you tell to the people to the effect that, yes, as you said, successful people have to be different and they things do it differently. What is your take that one should do different things, not that he should just create the chaos of the entire will? Because creating a will also requires a good will of a lawyer or a professional that caters to every aspect. One point well taken from your side, that any client who comes to you, you have to assimilate all the facts in a chronological manner so that all facts are taken on and you also cater to the legal position. So what are your takes? As I said, how do you say that one should create his niche? Because everyone knows in the advocacy as such, you can't advertise, etc. So your clients are your messengers of your good work who can actually travel your name. And the one classic example I can just say that you are at Mumbai and we are at Chandigarh. Still, because of your acumen, your knowledge, that we were able to connect you, and the way we talked that day when we requested you to come on the platform. And that is why we had requested that I could gauge. They say that at least once you talk to someone, you can, in the first two opening lines in the lawyer, as a lawyer, they say, you can make out. And that is why we had requested, sir, we will request you to give your insights on certain topics. So I'm just taking a break. Some people are asking that how they can connect us. We have already posted the mobile number for the WhatsApp. Those who want to connect us for any topic, they can connect us the WhatsApp number written on this, and you can also connect on our Facebook page as well as Instagram. And including the present session video would be uploaded on the channel of Beyond Law CLC, which you can like, share, and subscribe. People are asking, sir, request Mr. Shroff for another session on real estate, role of a lawyer, how to be successful, key knowledge points. I suppose this person is quite following you. He's Sanjay Shah, you would be knowing. So taking a cue from that, let's assume carry things forward. What is the role of a lawyer and how to be successful? I take that this is a question posed by Sanjay Shah. Though he says and proposes that it should be a 1.5 hour session like what we had. But as we say, ye to abhi trailer hai, picture to abhi baki hai, mere dost. तो सर थोड़ा सा एक ट्रेलर लोगों को दिखा दो सक्सेसफुल मूवी के लिए.
I will share with you, and it's a very good question. Let me tell you. And for those who are, the question has come out of a desire to know, and I believe it's not one of those. हम जाते हैं रजनीश जी के लेक्चर में तो दो चार सवाल तो पूछने चाहिए करके किसी ने नहीं पूछा है. वो दिल में जो आई है बात वो पूछी है संजय भाई ने. I also had the same thoughts when I was in my early years of my practice. My father was not a lawyer. My father had some cases which I think because of the circumstances that he had to face, and I had seen that he was under little misery because of some advocates having misbehaved with him. So I always thought that the advocates used to take advantage of a client instead of helping them. But at that time when I met my senior and I learned, I also knew that his children were becoming big, and but he was very balanced and he helped me. And rather he respected me and gave me space for the purpose of growing up. तो पहली बात तो ये है कि how to, in this profession which has become all the more competitive, and I believe that now suddenly advocates field is as crowded as any other field in which that there is some scope to earn or to settle down. So like engineers or the IT experts, you have lawyers all over the country, they are pouring in. The difficulty which we face is because of the lack of proper training to these advocates. They are unable to contribute well to the mainstream law, and because they don't have the experience and they don't have the training, so they find it difficult to adjust because they are not able to get accommodated into the field. First and foremost thing is that which you asked, how to be successful, how to come out and how to become known and how to really carve a niche for yourself. That's a question. Answer is, there is no other way. I am not fascinated by Mrs. Gandhi or anybody else, but I am fascinated by a fact. If you work hard and if you work harder and if you work still harder, according to me, there is nothing to stop you. Except a tremendous, aapko koi bahut zyada, if there is some bad stars following you is a different story. But otherwise, no man who has worked hard in field of law can be suppressed for long. He will always find his place under the sun and he will always be acceptable and he rises. And because you have also put in sufficient number of years, you will realize कि जिसने 25 साल पहले आप जिसको मिले थे, वो आज अच्छा lawyer, बड़ा lawyer, recognized lawyer, accepted lawyer बन गया है. So because he has worked hard and stayed back and he has got good qualities in him, he cannot be put down. And there is nothing, no other shortcut will work. If one tries to, as there is no further questions coming, I will share. Mr. K.K. Venugopal, with this you can check up our attorney generals on a YouTube program. His father was the most eminent lawyer which Southern India had. He wanted his son to become a big lawyer, but his son was not interested, so he was avoiding. कोई भी काम दिया तो भी वो करते नहीं थे. And then he would always try to dodge the work. Then his father got one of his client and said कि motor vehicle act का कोई matter था, तो बोला इसको काम दे दो, ये करेगा, मैं तो नहीं कर पाऊंगा. Then he took that work and in the process, he succeeded, he got a good name and there was no looking back. He became great. But at the end, he says in his interview that it was the work which made me successful. It was not because of anybody's recommendation that I became. So ये बहुत जरूरी है. ये आप करेंगे तो you will never be disappointed. But if you think quick result, which means quick money, quick fame, and quick platform for the beyond law, वो होने वाला नहीं है. Because you have to reach somewhere for which you have to work harder. This will happen in its own time, for which you must give opportunity to yourself and your stars to shine out.
Some people, that's what I'm saying. I will just see. So he only says, how do you, Sanjay Shah only, how could you split up into this thing? The key points, one is the hard work, that definitely they said that on everybody that luck factor doesn't count, though invariably large people, like you refer to Mr. Jinnah, and Jinnah was asked what are the 3 factors for his success. He said that first is luck, second is luck, and third is luck. But invariably everybody will not have the luck, but luck would also favor. They say that luck also favors the brave. So, two books which you can say, though we will be sharing on the WhatsApp, because invariably people have said books which you say that are good.
In a terms of, according to me, a lawyer without knowledge of history, and when it comes to history of everything, आप अगर हिंदू सक्सेशन एक्ट की हिस्ट्री नहीं पढ़ेंगे, आप अगर कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली की हिस्ट्री नहीं पढ़ेंगे, आप अगर हिंदू लॉ की हिस्ट्री नहीं पढ़ेंगे, आप अगर आज बड़ा करंट सब्जेक्ट चल रहा है कि the relationship in which that people without marriage, that there is supposed to be a living relationship, उसकी अगर आप हिस्ट्री पढ़ेंगे, so then the cases and the manner in which that the law has developed and how there is supposed to be the law recognizes all this in jurisprudence. तो मैं समझता हूँ कि बताने के लिए तो मेरे पास बहुत किताबें हैं, पर जो दो किताबें मैंने आज दोनों जो मैंने बताई है, they both are wonderful books. For example, that I read, I talked about Freedom at Midnight by Dominic Lapierre and Larry Collins. That book is also very important for a lawyer, because 46-47 के जो tumultuous years थे हिंदुस्तान के, उसकी जो साथ में जो constitutional history है, उसमें भी कई सारी चीजें इसमें से काम आ सकती है to a lawyer, which you can learn. And of course, I would say that I will, if required, I'll at least give a couple of books. I will probably send it to you on your WhatsApp. I don't want to offhand say, because मेरे पास तो list का भंडार है, so I can't really be telling you offhand 2 books and 3 books. But Freedom at Midnight, जो मेरे ख्याल से आजकल discount पे net पे मिलती है, because it's a 1974 version and you can probably get the Kindle version also. Highly recommended. अगर ये लॉकडाउन और चलता है और आप 8-10 दिन में उसको 700 पेजेस पढ़ सकें, you will become wiser and you will understand Indian Constitution, federal law, federal court, सारी चीजें आपके समझ में और ज्यादा बेहतर आएगी, and सारे nuances आपके समझ में आ जाएंगे कि कैसे ये डेवलप हुआ. It will be very interesting.
So before we part, and we say, as you said, that even they say that the prayers to even to the God have to be very specific, and it's just like drafting. In the lighter vein, again, I will share. They said that a person wanted to become an IAS, and without realizing, he was saying, I should become IAS. It becomes so fast, and eventually he becomes an ASI. So he asked the God that how that I was asking for an IAS, and it became ASI. He said that you didn't give the pause. I thought that from the ASI it became IAS, it became ASI. So you have to give the relevant pause even during a lawyer to become a successful. That's one of my takes. Before we part, only one question I can say, because art of drafting itself is not enough to create a niche in a profession. Art of communication is also important. Just 5 minutes before the wrap up, that what are your important keys that the art of communication should be improved, and what are the takes for that? What is that they say chef's main key recipe formula? As they say that the Coke doesn't give this formula. If you are asked to give the main key, what is that formula which can actually help one to create a niche in communication also?
I would love to reply to this, because I think somehow these are the questions which are very dear to my heart. If one lawyer, whether you want to work as a junior or associate, or you want to work under somebody, or you want to get a job, or you want to work in corporate world, if you are unable to talk, the biggest thing is that those who are not gone away and are still there on the platform, I want to share with them, if you only compare oneself of दिन में 4 से 6 टेलीफोन आप कर लीजिए किसी कंपनी में, किसी ऑफिस में, 1 या 2 ऐसे ऑपरेटर मिलेंगे जिनके साथ बात करने, लड़कियों की बात नहीं कर रहा हूं, इवन अ मेल ऑपरेटर, व्हेन यू टॉक टू देम यू फाइंड के बात बन गई यार, कुछ बात कर रहा है, ही अंडरस्टैंड्स, ही लव्स हिज जॉब. उसकी आवाज, सुनील दत्त भी ऑपरेटर था, वो भी रेडियो सिलोन पर था, पर जो दैट मेड हिम अ स्टार. तो कम्युनिकेशन तो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट बात है, ऑपरेटर होना भी बहुत बड़ी बात है, इफ यू नो हाउ टू टॉक. और जैसे कि हमारे जो ऑल इंडिया रेडियो के जो अनाउंसर थे कि आप हमारे समाचार सुन रहे हैं, तो वो इंदिरा गांधी को मिलने गए। जब वो मिलने गए तो इंदिरा जी ने आंख उठा के पूछा उसे, आप ही वो हैं? तो उसने कहा हाँ मैं ही वो हूँ। तो वो आवाज उन तक पहुंच गई, बिकॉज कम्युनिकेशन की जो इफेक्ट है वो आदमी को चलती है। तो आपको, यू मस्ट हैव हार्ट इन योर वर्क। जब आपकी बात, आपके काम में आपका दिल होगा तो आपकी बातों में बड़ा दम होगा, और जब वो दमदार बातें आप करेंगे तो लोग आपको एक्सेप्ट करेंगे। उसमें कोई हवा फैलाने की या कोई बड़े जैसे कहते गुब्बारे छोड़ने वाली बातें नहीं है। बट if you have your heart in a right place with an effort and you want to really you love your work, then your communication becomes very powerful, then it becomes very effective and people accept you. उसमें आवाजें बनाने की, मिमिक्री करने की, किसी को इम्प्रेस करने की बातें नहीं होती है, बिकॉज आप अपना काम जानते हैं। मैं हमेशा कहता हूं, एंड दिस आई वुड से दैट देयर आर सम पीपल who just tell you good morning, but you know that man has got all the knowledge of the century when he's telling you good morning, because he is not a small man, because जिस तरह से वो बोलता है उसमें उसका सारा जो पर्सनालिटी वो झलकती है, because he is able to communicate that with you. इम्प्रेस करने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ती उसको कोई हाथ हिला के। हमारे एक मिनिस्टर है सेंट्रल कैबिनेट में, जिसके कोई भी इंटरव्यू देखेंगे तो उनकी बातों में, उस चेहरे के सामने उनके हाथ ऐसे ही चलते रहते हैं। मैं कभी कभी सोचता हूँ कि ऊपर वाले ने जबान किस लिए दी अगर आपके हाथ यूं चलते हैं। The reason is he doesn't have a means to communicate. He thinks like American, he has to use his hand to communicate. तो ये तो जैसे कहते कमजोरी है, it is not a ताकत to do that. So this is all that I can say, that put your heart into your work and you will be a powerful communicating person, and you will reach out to this opposite party with your thoughts and will be remembered कि आपसे बात हुई थी, कोई था ऐसा। So great pleasure, Chatrat ji. You made my day. To you and for giving me this opportunity.
No, sir, it is the other way around. As you said, I'm just before the parting shot and before giving the formal vote of thanks, I'm just reminded what you said. As a student of law, I will just say that they say that any professional is just like a bottle of perfume. The moment you open, whatever you are carrying, that's your knowledge, it spreads automatically. You need not spread the word, and your communication, your drafting, everything actually does travel of its own. So we are just like, we are all messengers of the romance. So thank you to all the participants who have joined us, connected us on the platform as well as on the Facebook and subsequently on the YouTube channel. Do stay connected with us, because we are continuing to perform the webinars on different perspectives. Tomorrow we have a webinar by Honorable Mr. Justice Vinay Mittal, who has been the former judge of Punjab&Haryana High Court, and his son, Mr. Avnish Mittal, on the land laws, on the rent law. The exact topic I'm just sharing with you, because today is a communication day as well as the drafting. So I don't want that we should mess up with the exact topic. Just tomorrow, the topic is personal necessities and means profits under the Rent Act. Emphasis on East Punjab and East Punjab Rent Restriction Act 1949. We have specifically said emphasis because primarily they are from the Punjab&Haryana High Court. So since the rent law from each state varies, so we have been specific. But yes, the broader preview of personal necessity and means profit under the Rent Act invariably continues to remain the same. So everyone stay safe, stay healthy, and Mr. Shroff, it was a day, as you said, that even a good morning can create an impact. But if you hear someone for more than 1 hour 15 minutes, as you said, but actually, though by the clock, if you realize that it's 1 hour 15 minutes, but the way you took everyone in the manner, I'm just reminded, he came, he saw, and he conquered. The way you conquered the platform and the hearts of everyone will be for all times to come. You'll remember it, especially me. So everyone stay safe, stay healthy, and we will connect tomorrow again at 4 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chatra. Thank you for kind words. Thank you.